I'd like to welcome everyone to the Subcommittee of the Industrial Community Development. Myself, the Chair, Councilor Gould, Councilor Daigle is not here. Councilor Turco, will you fill in for Councilor Daigle, please? Yes. Thank you. Councilor Manning Martin's not here. Councilor Rossignol and McGinn are here. Councilor Gamache, will you fill in for Councilor Manning Martin, please? Thank you. This is a proposed zoning amendment, and it's section 6161, residential overlay district establishment by adding a parcel of land to the zoning map identified as assessors map 047, parcel 025, and numbered 14 Pine Street. Just want to let everyone know that this is in fact a public meeting, but it's not a public hearing, but I will allow short and concise comments after from anybody that would like to, after we hear the initial opening. Councilor Kelty, please.
For the record, my name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney representing Pyramid Development, and I am the attorney who proposed a zone change which would add 14 Pine Street to the parcels of land that were previously identified as having available to them the overlay district. Residential overlay district was adopted by this council some time ago, and when you adopted that, there was a list of properties that were identified by maps and lots, and 14 Pine Street which is located at the rear of Max Trailer Park, was not one of the parcels included. I have requested that the parcel identified in the advertisement by assessors map and lot, I've asked that that be included. If it was included as part of the overlay district, our proposal would eventually be before the City Council for 72 units. I had a conversation with the fire department in which it was stated to me that their access preference might be from Pine Street. We have since learned that I've seen the letter that came from the mayor. The mayor is suggesting that there be no intrusion into the residentially zoned land on Pine Street. And we have revised our plan, the plan that's here this evening, to show that parcel with only a sidewalk in it. And when this matter were to come to the City Council, if the City Council were to want no connection whatsoever, we would tear down the house that's on it and have no sidewalk, no bike access, and leave it as green space. And we would be able to develop the 72 units. Without this zone change, we are in a position of having 54 units by right, and I would suggest to the council that the 54 units represents a probably unfinanceable proposition, and we would not probably move forward with the plan to develop with this particular concept of condominiums. I have a plan that shows you, or a rendering, that shows you the two parcels, the large, that shows the two buildings on it. That's Max Trailer Park, and this parcel over here is 14 Pine. 14 Pine, we are showing a sidewalk that would join us for pedestrian traffic to Pine Street. But if the will eventually of the City Council, because if this were to go forward, it'll undergo scrutiny as a site development plan through the Planning Board and Construction Review Committee, and upon completion of that aspect of permitting, we'd be before the City Council for a special permit. And certainly it would be within the purview of the City Council to suggest yay or nay with respect to any connection. We're happy to provide the connection if the council eventually sees fit to do that. But at the same time, we are We are also amenable to, if at a later date it is proposed that there be fire access with a transponder to allow the fire department to get through any gate, we would build that and provide that. And likewise, if there was a suggestion that we might want to consider being connected to the bicycle path, and we would provide a bicycle path down to Pine Street from our units, or a sidewalk that would be widened to be both. But we're happy to answer questions that the council may have. And we're here we're here to answer questions that you may have with respect to this proposal.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. Councilor Daigle is here. Thank you, Councilor Turco. And Councilor Manning Martin, are you up to speed on this, or should I have Councilor Gamache that is sitting in for you? You're good. All right. Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Before we have questions for Attorney Kelty, I'd like Community Development Director, Mr. Bellavance, to weigh in on this, if you'd like, Kurt.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director. I just wanted to kind of give a background of the residential overlay to the council. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. The proposal that you're reviewing this evening is that the City Council adopted the residential overlay about 4 years ago. That allows people to submit applications via the special permit process to allow for housing in specific districts that are spotted throughout the city, mostly near the mall and then on Route 1. So what the proposal is before you, part of that language allows two categories, an A and a B. It allows greater density and higher height with category B. So what this applicant is looking to do is to add additional area to that overlay district, so that would allow them a higher density and allow them to go up another floor in regards to the project. I just wanted to pass that along to the board and let them know that was the intention of this zone change, and we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bellavance. Any questions of either Attorney Kelty or Community Development Director Bellavance? Would anyone in the audience like to speak briefly about their feeling towards this? Again, this is a public hearing, public meeting, not a public hearing, so if you keep your comments brief, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome. Could you state your name?
Yeah,
and
my name's Mark Bradbury, and I'm from Max Park.
Thank you.
I just wanted to go on record that, Matt sold this park back in 2012 to people that just came in and said we had to vacate the property and stuff, and we won a lawsuit against them, but we dropped it against Matt for some reason. And then again in 2016, when Pyramid Holdings bought it, we don't remember ever getting a right of refusal then either, but we're kind of still in the middle of that lawsuit too. So, and then in 2019, went in front of the health department for the failed sewers again, and asking for continuances. And after that, we never got invited to any more meetings or anything, and didn't know about any of the meetings, and haven't been told. They've been trying to apply for a discontinuance. We haven't been told about it. And everybody back there is wondering what's going on with this place, and it just keeps happening to us. So, and and it says today we have no one's been notified of a discontinuance of anything of what's going on with this property. Nobody knows anything about it. It's just been going on and on. We want to do something.
Thank you very much for speaking. Anyone else like to speak? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Lisa Ferry. I live at 286 Newbury Street, lot number 73, Peabody. There's been a little bit of talk about this Max Park being up for discontinuance. This issue has not come to Peabody Rent Control Board until this issue is decided upon. I'm asking everybody, please, table this for right now. until there's a decision made through the Rent Control Board, if there is a discontinuance. There's a lot of other things going on before this decision is made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak? Councilors? What's the will of the committee?
If I may?
Councilor Gamache?
Yes. The council is still waiting for the decision from the planning board. We'll put that off until, I believe, September 1st. I'm not sure of the date, the next planning board. But I would ask that this remain in committee until we receive a decision from the planning board. I'm not a member of this, but I would ask one of the members of the committee to enter that as a motion.
Councilor Manning Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to know, since this is before the planning board, I'd like to know what the planning board knows about this discontinuance and the open lawsuits, if they are aware. Does anyone have any information on that?
I'd have to ask the clerk. Any idea, Allison? They continued their meeting, correct? I don't want to put you on the spot. If you don't know, you don't know.
I can say that there was the same testimony you heard tonight was at the planning board. And exactly of the same nature, that people are concerned, they don't know what's going on. There has been one level, it's a several-step process to discontinue, and it eventually comes before the city council. And that process has been begun to the extent that they did send a notice to the Rent Control Board.
The clerk just informed me that 8H on our agenda is it shows it's before the planning board. Is that what you said?
If I may, so referring to 8H, I mean, would it be appropriate for me to receive it here, through you to the clerk? Yes. Motion to receive, under suspension of the rules, 8H, which is a letter from the planning board to City Council President Ryan Melville and the council. And in it, I'll just read it, it's very brief, is that okay? Please be advised that at the August 18th, 2022 Planning Board meeting, the board held a public hearing to review and discuss the proposed zoning amendment to include 14 Pine Street in the residential zoning district. The board listened to the presentation by proponent attorney John Kelty and discussed the proposal with the proponent. The board listened to comments from the public. After discussing the proposal, the board voted to seek further input from the Community Development Office and further information on the proposal before providing a recommendation to the City Council. So I think we're really kind of right back at ground zero on this one. So
Thank you, Councilor Manning. We have a motion by Councilor Manning to, under suspension of the rules, to accept 8H. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Manning?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it seems as though everyone's looking for further information, and it sounds to me to be rather circular in motion at this point, kind of chasing our tails. So I don't think there's much we can do this evening with everybody seeking information that they don't have. So we don't have much to make a determination on, is my opinion. Thank you.
Councilors, any other comments? Councilor Rosendahl, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, I'd also like to receive 7D and refer it to this matter. So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Rosendahl. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. What's the will of the committee? Would we like to?
I'd like to make, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to leave this in committee until we get more information and the planning board gets the information that they're looking for in order to give us a recommendation. So moved.
Any comments on Councilor Manning Martin's motion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Rozignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Daigle,
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, councilors.
That might be held? No, not yet.
We'll let we'll let you know on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Move
you.
to
We're all,
adjourn, Mr.
we're
Mayor.
adjourned. Thank you so much.
We're going to get started in a minute. Good evening. The City Council will convene on Thursday, August 25th to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person and remote participation in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and Sections 20A, B, and C of the Acts of 2021, signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. 1, this meeting is being televised by Peabody Access Television on cable channel 9. 2, real-time public comment during public hearings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make comment or question to the chair via the audio option. Please visit www.peabody-ma.gov for Zoom information. This meeting is being taped by Peabody Access Television and is also being recorded by the Peabody City Council stenographer. Please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hear the motion from Councilor Gould to approve the record. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. All right. Our first item on the agenda is a recessed zoning amendment for zoning map to include within the Mills Overlay District that was recessed from the July 14th, 2022 meeting. Clerk's already read the public notice. I'm going to ask Mr. Bellavance, if you could come up and just give a brief overview of where we're at with this, and then we'll open it up to the public and to the council. Councilor Daigle. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Daigle.
For the record, as an employee of Mills 58, I'm going to recuse myself for the minutes and step out of the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Bellavance.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Bellavance, Director of Community Development for the City of Peabody. So before you this evening is we're looking to extend the Mill Overlay District. It's a district that was created about 4 years ago as a overlay district that could be applied anywhere in the city. At that time, the first property we took a look at, or at least the city council took a look at, was on 58 Pulaski Street. We used the overlay to identify that property as it's an older mill building that was probably about 75% vacant. We applied the new district that we created to that area, and it has allowed Mr. Ed Greeley to proceed with different uses within that district, mostly retail shops, restaurants, and things like that. That has allowed him to grow and basically convert that mostly abandoned property into a more thriving commercial type of use. That was working as a successful project. So what we're looking to do is expand that to include property adjacent to that. That was the intention of the development of the Mill Overlay District 4 years ago, was to allow that as a test case. It's working successfully. We wanted to expand that to allow those uses to be used on adjacent property as well. And hopefully in the future we'll look to use that in other parts throughout the city as well. So I'm here to answer any questions that the City Council may have in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belvance. Does anybody in the audience wishes to speak in favor of this? Anybody in the audience wishes to speak in favor of this item? Anybody on Zoom? If you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand if you'd like to speak in favor. Good evening. Could you speak your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Bill Sheehan. I practice law in Peabody, Massachusetts. And tonight I'm representing VRRM LLC and Sideways LLC, Principal Margaret Kelly. She owns 13 and a half acres of land next to the site that is under consideration tonight. You may recall that I was here at the last meeting, consistent with the letter that I've sent to this council back then. We are in favor with a caveat, is the way I put it, and that is that we would like to have our land included in the expanded overlay district. The reason that we want that, and the reason that I would suggest that it should be done, is that the law talks with respect to zoning about uniformity, district uniformity, whether it's an overlay district or a regular district. And there is nothing that differentiates our property from the property that's under consideration with respect to both its existing use as industrial and what is likely to be the future use, which includes commercial. I'm not here to get into a lot of legalese. I know that this isn't the appropriate place and time to do that. But I think it might be helpful if I read one small excerpt from a case that involved the city of Salem when there was discussion about whether the city of Salem had properly carved out from a residential district in that case, a small piece of land so as to confer an economic benefit on a funeral home that would not be allowed to operate as a funeral home if the zoning didn't change, so they changed it for that one purpose. And what the court said, and I think it's helpful here as you consider whether or not you want to expand this overlay district to include our property, and frankly, whether you want to include the entire industrial park, which I would suggest makes a lot of sense. But the language that I'd like you to listen to is this. The court struck down the rezoning of just the one lot and said that it would not result in uniformity of regulations and restrictions for zones, districts, or streets having substantially the same character. The effect of the amendment would be to single out one lot located within what is essentially a residential district and to impose restrictions upon this lot that are less onerous than those imposed upon the remaining portions out of what is really the same zoning district. It is plain that the legislature, in authorizing cities and towns to establish districts or zones for regulating the character of buildings and the use of buildings and lands for the purposes of zoning, intended to provide for the creation and maintenance of reasonable uniformity within districts having in fact the same general characteristics. It was not intended that one or two building lots essentially similar to the rest of the neighborhood by which they were surrounded could be marked off into a separate district or zone and benefited by peculiar advantages not applicable to adjoining similar lands. So that's all we're asking this council to consider. Is our lot, or our lots, are they essentially similar to the land that you're considering tonight, and indeed the entire industrial park? The answer is yes. Now, I saw the community development memo here, and the community development was concerned with a couple of issues. The first was that they noted that our parcels, although they have existing buildings on them, they did not consider those buildings to be mill buildings. Well, mill buildings is not a defined term, but in any event, when you look at the existing zoning, and the zoning language is not proposed to be changed, only the district is going to be enlarged, it doesn't talk about mill buildings. What it talks about is existing buildings. And our parcel has existing buildings, just like the parcel that now makes up the overlay district, and just like the parcel that is proposed to be added to the overlay district. As I say, the likely future use, certainly the Mills 58 building has been very successful, as Mr. Bellavance acknowledged. That's all good news for everyone. It's good news for our client. Our client now wants to continue to use the property for industrial use, but recognizes that down the road it very well may be commercial, which is in its future. And I know that this council recognizes that we're not dealing with a special permit request here. We're not dealing with a particular piece of land that's before this council. What's before the council today is a bigger picture. It involves the zoning of this land. What is the future use of this land? And I would suggest respectfully that the future use of the parcel that's now before you, the parcels of my client, and the other parcels of the industrial park, the future use is much more consistent with the uses that are allowed by this overlay district. Please keep in mind that what the overlay district really does is it simply adds an alternative for all of the owners as to use. They can continue to use the industrial land for industrial purposes. That's consistent with the present zoning, but the overlay district also allows this commercial opportunity, and that's all we want. All my client is asking this council for is the same opportunity that the proponent of this particular zoning proposal is asking this council for. We are not in any way, by asking for this relief, we are not interfering with or seeking to have denied the proposal of the applicant. That is, that all of this land would be included in the overlay district. So that what we're going to ask you to do, and you have the power to do it, as you know, under Chapter 40A, Section 5, you have the power to adopt or to amend and adopt the proposal. The proposal before you involves just the one parcel. We're going to ask you to amend the proposal by including either my client's land alone or including all of the land in the industrial park. That land is identified as an attachment to my letter of July 14 in the event and to the extent you adopt my suggestion and want to include all of it. But we ask you to do that, add all of those parcels in the industrial park, and to, in that way, amend the zoning map, the overlay map, to include those parcels. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them, and I thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Peach?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have had the opportunity to talk to the attorney we just heard from. At this time, I am supporting the zoning change to include the additional parcel as originally proposed. I was not on the council when the overlay district was originally drafted, but my understanding is the language used in it was used to specifically include parcels that have mill buildings on them, so that we could renovate the existing mill buildings, not necessarily construct more buildings in the city. So at this time, I'll turn it over to the council, the rest of the council, but I will be supporting this as proposed.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Gamache?
May, through you to Mr. Bellavance. As Councilor Peach alluded to, if I may, through you, as Councilor Peach alluded to, that it was specifically to allow for the mill buildings to prosper and clean up. Let's put it, no better word than that. And the other buildings are not mill buildings, which Mr. Sheehan is talking about. Have you looked at that suggestion, or are we still just with this, and the reason why we may not do that?
Well, we did, I did speak with Attorney Sheehan after our last meeting, and I was happy to sit down with them and their clients to talk about what their plans were and involved in an expansion onto their property. I meet weekly with people calling me about their property. What can they do? You know, what's allowed? You know, is there any way that they can change? What can we do in regards to that? So, and I'll review those. You know, sometimes we'll have staff come in. Sometimes it gets to the next level with, you know, we'll sit down with the mayor to go over these things. So we're happy to work with them and talk about what they're interested in doing and how does the zoning, how does that fit into what they're looking to do, and what are some of the aspects of you know, what they would like to do and propose to do, that how that works with regards to the mill overlay district.
So, if I may, basically what Mr. Bellavance is explaining to us is that even if we do the overlay district tonight for the parcels that are before us, as Councilor Peach has suggested, there's still their opportunity to come in and ask for a public hearing to continue that overlay district. So we're really not, at this point, stopping them from proceeding with what they believe is right in an overlay district, and what the council is perceiving is right now to be a specific area of property in the mill district. So I have no reservations in supporting Councilor Peach. I think that we're not hurting the abutters by doing this, and they have the right to come before us and ask for a zoning change whenever time they like, when they can give us specific as to what they have going. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Before I open up to any other we did have somebody that raised their hand that wished to speak. Mr. Donovan, can you hear me? He did raise his hand. Russ, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I'm currently looking on the city website and looking at the zoning ordinance, and as under, excuse me, I got a classes.
Russ, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you speak into the microphone or your phone? We're just having a hard time hearing you all. Coming in.
I'm looking at the current zoning of the city of Peabody, and under the classes of districts, there is no mill overlay district delineated or described in the zoning. So you people are going to discuss something that's not on the zoning, in the zoning right now. And so how can you discuss something that's not in the zoning? I mean, you've changed the mill overlay district a number of years ago, but under the current zoning dated March 15th, 2022, there is no district for a mill overlay district.
Mr. Donovan was just speaking about he did not see a district for a mill overlay on the city website. Can you answer that? Can you address that, Mr. Bellavance?
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Donovan is correct. There are, we did refer to, when creating the mill overlay, parcels. So we identified that as how we would mark or identify where the overlay district is. There are actually, I think, 3 different districts not being shown on the zoning map. That has to go to the planning board with a marked-up new plan, and then that would come back to the city council to sign off. It's a matter of going through the process, creating that on the map, then signing off on that. The planning board would, I believe, would be the voting authority on the zoning map itself, and then it comes back to the city council. But we have identified a few changes or a few updates that need to take place on the actual map itself. It hasn't been updated, I think, since 2014. So there are a few changes that need to be put on that map and then brought back to the planning board and the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Bellavance. All right, I'll open it back up to any other counselors. Counselor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just briefly say that I agree with Councilor Peach. She mentioned she wasn't on the council at the time. I was. I think the way she categorized the intent of the council was accurate. You know, in the purpose language, we talk about within the existing envelope of existing buildings, and in Section A and Section 6.15C, we talk about permit the preservation of existing structures. So it very much was intended to be for the renovation of mill buildings, and you know, with all due respect to the abutter's attorney, I don't think the structures that are on the adjacent property fall into that category by any means, to my eye. So I'm very comfortable with moving forward with the proposal as has been advocated by Councilor Peach, and I plan to do so. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other counselors? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Bellavance, can I ask you one question?
Mr. Bellavance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bellavance, Mr. Sheehan had mentioned that there's no true definition of a mill building. Do we have a true definition of mill building in zoning, or do you intend on creating a true definition? It is something that I likely see as an issue without a definite definition in our own words.
Yeah, you're correct. I don't believe there's a definition within the zoning ordinance listed under definitions where it would list a mill building. So, but if that's something that that makes the city council feel more comfortable with that, that's something we could actually define working with the building commissioner. Typically, we'll work with him in regards to definitions and how that works in regards to the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Yeah, I think if I remember correctly on this overlay, we had mentioned the possibility and the probability of adding additional parcels down the road but we wanted to see how this actually worked out. The issue I have is now which parcels are defined as mill overlay, as mill buildings. So yes, I would like to create a definition that we could, put our finger on, so that issues like these don't arise. In the case of Mr. Sheehan's parcel 13, I don't believe that would fall in my definition of a mill building, but I don't have that on paper. So if we could, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Any other councilors? Councilor Peach?
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to amend the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Section 1, that the zoning map of the City of Peabody entitled City of Peabody zoning map adopted April 28, 2011, as amended, is hereby further amended as follows: to include within the Mill Overlay District the following location: Assessor's Map 053, Parcel 087, and numbered 58 Pulaski Street. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewithin are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Okay, moving on to item 4B, which was a continued hearing, zoning amendment. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, July 14th, and continued to August 25th, at 7:30 PM in the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 40A, Section 5 of the Massachusetts General Laws, to consider amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows, that the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011 as amended is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1, by amending Section 4.2.5 Business under Schedule of Use Regulations by adding as a use allowed by special permit SP Bakery Retail in the BR1 zoning district. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Petitioner, give us your name and address for the record and a summary of what they're trying to do.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City of Peabody City Council. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I appear on behalf of Sanjeev Sood, who is trustee, and his address is 5 Endicott Road in Andover, Massachusetts. He is the owner of property at 128 Newbury Street in Peabody, Mass. We are, as a landowner, impacted and affected by the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody. Mr. Sood has standing to request amendments to the zoning ordinance, and as such, I provided a letter to the City Council under date of May 24th, 2022, in which I requested that that bakery retail be allowed by special permit in the BR1 zoning district. Currently, a bakery is prohibited in the BR1 zoning district, and to sort of re-familiarize you with the BR1 versus BR, BR1 is the southbound lane of Route 1 heading to Boston. This property is located in that lane, and it is actually, as I'm led to believe, that it is Eva's Bakery that operates in South Peabody that wants to operate on this site at 128 Newbury. A review of the zoning ordinance suggests that bakery retail is prohibited in the BR1 zone, and that in any other zone that it is allowed, it's allowed by special permit, which I believe to be a typo. I believe that food processing would require special permit in as much as it's a much larger, bigger operation, different use inside the premises. But the retail bakery is as straightforward as can be. And as such, when I presented to the planning board, we did have a discussion of this situation in which I asked for it to be by right. It makes perfect sense for me I asked for it to be by special permit to make it consistent with other aspects of the zoning ordinance. However, upon further review of the zoning ordinance and when this occurred, it didn't seem to make sense that it was anything but a typo with respect to requiring a special permit for bakeries. So the planning board has recommended that you adopt the zone change, but they have further recommended that it be a by right zoning availability in the BR1 zoning district. If along the way the council wanted to also include change the zoning such that it became bakery retail became by right throughout the city, That's up to the council as to they see fit. But we would ask that you adopt the zoning, and in doing so, I would respectfully request that it be adopted as a by right use. I'm happy to answer questions that you may have.
Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Seeing none. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Clerk says none. There are nobody that wishes to speak in opposition. And Councilor Gamache.
Yes, thank you. Move under suspension of the rules to receive item 8C, which is the planning board's recommendation to us. It was unanimously approved by them. So move.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
This location is on Route 1, and if you really look at it, we got a bakery at Spinelli's, but I assume they come in, and I shouldn't use that word, but they came in under a function hall, so that bakery is with that property. I don't think it's detrimental to any of the BR1 zone district. And as far as being by right, I really don't see where this is going to blow up and become a big issue, especially in the BR1 zone. So as the ward council, I have no reservations in approving this, and I'll leave it up to the council if there's other questions.
Thank you, Councilor Gamache. Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, when we looked at this in industrial and community development, it is clear that this is the only business district where this use is not allowed by special right, the only business district. So that supports Attorney Kelty's theory that this was a Scribner's error. I can't say that it is or it isn't, but it certainly is an inconsistency. I'd be reluctant to go the route of making it by right, however, because everywhere else it's by special permit. I know that, you know, for example, we have Diorce's, which does extremely well. They've, you know, during holidays, we've got police details, there's traffic issues there, they're working out issues with neighbors. So, I mean, it's the type of use that could be impactful to an area. So you know, we're talking about an entire zone here. I'd be reluctant to say that every parcel it would be a no-brainer. I think as with the other districts, it should undergo the scrutiny of this special permit process just to vet any associated issues. So no issue on my part supporting this as originally proposed. I wouldn't be supportive of adding it by right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other councilors? Councilor Welton and Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do plan on supporting this. I just want to say Eva's Pastries in South Peabody has been a great location, and they've been a great business. I know that they're looking to have more visibility, so I think by allowing them to be on Route 1 would be wonderful. So I fully intend to support this, and I agree with Councilor McGinn's thoughts as well.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. Councilman McGinn said exactly what I would say, is I'm in favor of this. I would not, as this actually is one particular parcel, one particular applicant who will be looking for this, I would make it by special permit, as it is everywhere else, just so that we can vet it. There's a lot, as we all know, there's a lot going on at that property, that area, and I think we should understand about parking and whatnot. So I'd keep it by special permit only. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Any other councilors? Councilor Gamache?
Yes. Move to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, at this point, I would move approval, amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody as follows. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Peabody as follows, that the zoning ordinance of the City of Peabody entitled Zoning Ordinance 2011, as amended, is hereby further amended as follows. Section 1, by amending Section 4.2.5, business under schedule of use regulations by adding the use allowed by special permit bakery retail in the BR1 zoning district. Section 2, all ordinance or parts of ordinance inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect as provided by law. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Peach,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, councilors.
Okay, moving on to item 4C. We did get a request for a continuance. This was Councilor Gamache.
Move to accept the continuance.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache to move to accept and move to receive and approve the continuance.
Yes.
You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Okay, moving on to item 4D. Councilor Gamache.
Yes, move to accept the request under suspension of the rules to allow for this to be continued. I believe that's till September 15th. Is that the next?
That would be late one, and
Yes.
I don't have the date in front of me. September 8th. Counselor.
Thank you.
Councilor McGinn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On the motion about the continuance, I believe this is on the Concom's agenda for September 14th, so that they're not going to act on it by our September 8th meeting. So it would seem that we would want to push it out one.
If I may reply to that?
Yeah, Councilor Gamache.
I spoke to the petitioner this afternoon. They met with Lucia and Mr. Rizzo, Will Paulitz. I don't know if Jack was there or not, but all of the matters seem to be answered, and that I can't speak for anybody that was there, but I was under the understanding that the 14th meeting, the Conservation Commission would have something that would allow for this to move forward on the 15th? Was that?
Yes, we feel strongly that will be the case. And the only thing I would add, my request for continuance was to your meeting of the 8th.
Yes.
And if you would, I think that the board pursuant to Rule 17, I should be finished with everything when I come back, so that I probably should ask to be placed on the agenda for the second meeting of the month, which is
The 22nd.
22.
So will you amend your motion, Councilor, to...
I will amend that motion to make it to the 22nd. So moved.
Thank you. You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Moving on to item 4E, a special permit for LA Holdings LLC. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as a special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, August 25th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from LA Holdings LLC, 18 Baldwin Street, Peabody, Mass., for a special permit requesting to use of the premises for an automobile service station without the sale of gasoline, consisting of automotive repairs, automotive bodywork and painting, and automotive sales at 29 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 1.5, 4.4, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov. Under Calendar on the homepage, or contact the City Clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
The petitioner give us your name and address for the record and a summary of what you'd like to do.
Good evening. For the record, my name's Ethan Bonzalitis. I'm an attorney practicing law at 246 Andrew Street in Peabody, and I'm here on behalf of the petitioner with respect to this evening's application. I think that most of the councils are probably already familiar with this property. We're on Route 1 North. The Petopia marijuana store butts us to the right. I think it's the Route 128 overpass is to our left. And to the rear is basically undeveloped forested land. And as you probably already know, it's a previously developed site. It contains two buildings. The front building is a two-story building. It contains about 4,400 square feet of area. And the rear building is a single-story building that contains about 1,600 square feet. In the past, this building's been used for the sale of swimming pools. It's been used as a used car dealership, and I believe it was last used as an engine repair facility, doing business as a Don Small Engine Repair. This property was originally developed about 45 years ago, we can say like the 1970s. The buildings have been vacant now for a little over 5 years. If any of the councils have been to the property, the first thing you're going to notice is both of the buildings and the parking facilities are in total disrepair, and this property can certainly benefit from a total renovation. If granted this evening's permit, the petitioner would be constructing a 1,200 square foot addition to the front building. It would be one story. It'd also be performing a total interior and exterior renovation to both buildings and to the parking lot. The petitioner is going to be installing all new siding wherever it's necessary. He's going to be installing new windows, all new insulation. He's going to bring the electrical services and the plumbing services up to current codes. He's going to paint the buildings. He's going to be installing a new water line. He'll be installing a new sewer line, and he'll be installing all new pavement throughout a portion of our parking lot. The remainder of the parking lot is going to remain gravel in order to reduce any impervious coverage, in order to reduce any stormwater runoff. As you can see from the site plan, the petitioner is proposing more parking spaces than what's required under our zoning ordinance. Because our site is basically totally paved, we are non-conforming with respect to landscaping. However, the petitioner is going to be improving that non-conformity by landscaping the entire frontage of the property as it's shown on the site plan. As I stated earlier, the interior to both of these buildings is going to be renovated in order to suit the petitioner's proposed use of the property. His proposed use would be to be an automotive facility consisting of the sale of used automobiles along with general mechanical work, which would include auto body and auto painting. This project does require 4 approvals. We have obtained a variance from the Board of Appeals. We obtained our site plan approval from the Planning Board. If granted this evening's permit, we'll then have to apply for a Class 2 used car dealership license once one becomes available. I do believe that his proposal would certainly be a significant improvement over the current conditions of the property. I have a representative of the petitioner, Lucas Brito, here with me this evening, along with our site engineer, and together we'll try to answer any questions that either the council or the public may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor of this applicant? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Council Gamache.
Thank you. I met back in, I believe, January with the petitioner. It's been a long process. He had to go through the zoning board to get relief on the side yard, which is that 60-foot strip, I believe. And they have a lot of plans that would clean up this atrocious site as you come into Peabody. And it's my hope that they come in, and as the petitioner's attorney alluded to, there is no car dealership license available. They are in the process of working to acquire one, which means they would have to come before us anyways for that license. So this has been an ongoing process. They did have one available, and somebody else scooped it up before them. So I have no reservations concerning this permit, and I would hope that they get this permit and get in there as quick as possible and start the renovations that are greatly needed. And I'll leave it up to the rest of the council if there are any other questions.
Thank you, Council Gamache. Any other councilors? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ethan, bear with me on this. I've never been great at reading these plans, but I'm trying to figure out here. So you have Route 1 at the top of the map, and you have a 30-foot entrance off of Route 1 that leads to, this existing 2-story concrete block and wood building. Do you have your map out? Okay, so do you see where I'm talking about, the 29.8-foot entrance off of Route 1 at the very top of the map, right-hand side?
Talking about the 60-foot wide right-of-way?
No, I'm talking about the 29.8-foot entrance off of Route 1.
Yes, I see that.
Next
Yep,
to the
it's on right-
landscaping.
The right-hand corner.
Yeah, right-hand corner. Okay, so you enter into the parcel. How do you get to the other side of the parcel once you get in there? Because it looks like it's blocked off by another building and 30 parking spaces.
You're going to come in from the 60-foot wide strip away, and you can go straight across the front of the property and then out the right-hand side.
Okay, so if you come in off the stripway, where is the curb cut on the stripway? Because I don't see that.
It's existing. It's an open way.
Oh, so that whole line is wide open. Okay, I understand. Okay, I was confused that coming in off the stripway, you could get to the back side of the lot. Coming in off of Route 1, you could only get to the top side of the lot. So I was wondering if you could traverse the whole lot. But then my second question is regarding the encroachment. So you have listed as a 4.6-foot encroachment onto what's listed as a private way. Does the owner of the private...
It's a title issue, not a zone, not a special permit issue.
Okay, but no, before I approve it, I was just wondering, have you reached out to the guy that owns the private way to see if he's...
I have been told that the person who owns the private right-of-way has no problems with the encroachment.
Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Any other councilors? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Vonzalides, in your narrative and on the site plan, it mentions the Surface Water Protection District. Can you speak to any, I think you mentioned the gravel in your narrative that addresses that to some extent. Can you just enlighten us a little bit as to what measures have been taken to address the restrictions of the Surface Water Protection District? It's on your on the application.
I'm going to let our site engineer address
yeah,
that.
just for clarification.
Peter Blaisdell.
On the application, this is one of the parameters under which you're applying Section 6.9.
Can you just give us your name and address for the record?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, he's a little shorter than me. Good evening. For the record, Peter Blaisdell. I'm a civil engineer with Williams and Sparagus at 189 North Main Street in Middleton. I'm sorry, Councilman McKinn, what was your question again, sir?
So one of the parameters under which you're applying is Section 6.9, the Surface Water Protection District. It was mentioned by Attorney Vonzalides in his narrative that some steps have been taken in the site plan. I think he mentioned that a portion of the area would be maintained as gravel to maintain the pervious surface there. And just what other steps have been taken to address the fact that the majority of this lot is within that Surface Protection District?
That's correct. So in this case, Councilor, we're doing what's called a redevelopment. So we're actually removing an additional 350 square feet of impervious area from the site. So by doing that, that gets us a favorable position with DEP. So they like the fact that we're reducing that amount of impervious area. And areas that were impervious before are going to remain just a gravel surface to allow any stormwater that settles on top of it just to exfiltrate into the ground. The groundwater protection, the Surface Water Protection District is a 400-foot line from Suntog Lake. However, we have checked in with DEP because we're not within 100 feet or even 200 feet to say a riverfront area. We're actually outside of DEP's jurisdiction, so it's really up to this council if there's any questions or anything that you have with it. Chris Barrages from our office has been discussing the matter with Bob Langley from your city and also with Will Politz. And my understanding is they're okay with it. They're still looking at maybe adding some improvements to it over and above just having pervious surfaces, but he doesn't seem to have any issues with that.
Yeah, thank you. I understand it's not jurisdictional. That was the feedback from the, it's not jurisdictional of the Conservation Commission, therefore it's not jurisdictional of the DEP. it's a function of zoning, and it's part of the criteria that you applied under. That's one of the parameters that this special permit needs to address, so that's why the questions. So, do we have something from Bob Langley or Will Politz that addresses this? You said you're under the impression there was some dialogue, there was a meeting. Has that already been incorporated into the site plan?
My understanding is that it was according to Attorney Vansilides, it's in the planning board decision.
These are all the issues we went over with the planning board, and it's incorporated in our site plan approval.
Okay, so site plan approval addressed the issues of surface
Yes.
water. Thank you. One other question on this district. There are use regulations that go along with this district, and a number of them deal with chemicals and so forth, hazardous materials. You're in Zone B of this district, or Zone 2, as it is illustrated in zoning. Facilities that use oil or hazardous materials incidental to the primary use. These facilities shall store such materials in accordance with the standards of Mass General Law, Chapter 21C, and related regulations, and it lists a number of additional regulations. Either the engineer or the attorney, can you assert that any hazardous materials that are going to be used here are incidental to the primary use? Is that accurate?
Certainly incidental, but our oils and liquids will be maintained as required underneath the regulations of the state.
Right, and I appreciate that. I think the requirement of zoning actually might take it a step beyond what's required by the state. So I would just ask if the ward council might include as a condition that that the applicant satisfy the requirements of Section 6.9 with respect to the use of oil and hazardous materials as indicated in Section 6.9 of zoning. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Attorney Vansilides.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Any other councilors? Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I plan on supporting this. I just wanted to make mention now, I know you're going to have to come back before us with a special permit request when you are able to get a dealership license. As you go through that and start to think about what that design looks like, I just wanted to make mention that we've had a number of dealerships on Route 1 that have had issues with delivery of vehicles and kind of backing up traffic onto Route 1. So again, I know that's not a discussion for tonight, but just wanted to bring that forward so as you presumably are able to acquire that permit, you can kind of think that ahead before you come up in front of us next time. But I do plan on supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Any other councilors?
Motion to close the public hearing?
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache to close the public hearing. Are there any other councilors that had any questions before we do that? All right, there's a motion on the floor to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Gamache.
At this time, I move approval on the application from LA Holdings LLC, 18 Baldwin Street, Peabody, Mass. for a special permit requesting to use the premises for an automobile service station without the sale of gasoline, consisting of automotive repairs, automotive bodywork, and painting, and automotive sale at 29 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass. is filed in accordance with Sections 1.5, Section 4, Section 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with the following conditions. First condition, that there be no offloading of vehicles on Route 1. And the second condition, satisfy Section 6.9, the use of hazardous materials. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gamache. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Peach. Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
All right, moving on to item 4F, special permit for Seaside Movers LLC. The clerk will read the public notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, August 25th, 2022, at 7:30 p.m. in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom on the application from Seaside Movers, LLC, 84 Humphrey Street, Swampscott, Mass., for a special permit requesting to change the use of the premises from a carpet cleaning service to ancillary office and storage for a moving company at 63 Fulton Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 1.5, 6.1 and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under calendar on the homepage or contact the city clerk's office. Peabody City Council, Councilor Ryan Melville, City Council President.
Petitioner, give us your name and address for the record and a summary of what they are looking to do.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City of Peabody City Council. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Seaside Movers, LLC, who is a corporate address of 84 Humphrey Street, Swampscott, Massachusetts. They are here seeking approval of a special permit to allow the use of the premises at 63 Fulton Street. They want to change the use from a carpet cleaning service to an office for a moving company, which is actually located in Swampscott. As I said in my previous remarks, Seaside Movers LLC is their offices for corporate purposes are at 84 Humphrey Street in Swampscott, Mass. My client, Juan Barrios, is here this evening. He can answer questions that you may have. The folks that ran Fox Carpet Cleaning have placed the property on the market. My clients, Seaside Movers LLC, have responded to that. In order for this closing to take place, my clients need a special permit to allow them to utilize the property as office and with minimal storage of packing materials. Let me explain what it is that Seaside Movers LLC does. They have two trucks, one of which is in service. It's a 17-footer, and the second truck is actually out of service and will be replaced at some future date, but it is a larger vehicle that was in the day, utilized in actual moving. My clients have, as my narrative explains, my clients have created kind of a niche business where they are pre-mover movers. So I contract with Seaside Movers. They actually contract with a larger company which has Mayflower, Wakefield, Lyons, all the large movers with the extremely large trailer trucks that actually do the moving. My clients contract directly with them and arrange for your move, and then they assist in what they refer to as kind of a pre-packing analysis. They look at what your needs are, because if one of the larger movers arrives on your site and you're not ready for them, that is, you haven't already crated, boxed, packaged certain items, they don't do that for you. They will pull your furniture out of your house, and you'll end up kind of half moved. My clients, if you were to be the owner of a large piano, my clients would arrange for the piano to be moved, but before the actual moving van arrived on the scene, they would call upon you and they would crate that piano such that it could be then picked up, loaded onto the much larger vehicle that will never is not affiliated with this particular site whatsoever. The storage that we refer to as bubble wrap, boxing materials, crating materials, no storage of anybody's furniture, with the possible exception of an overnight storage, but this premises is not even big enough to store anybody's full house or even a full apartment in. We anticipate no changes to the footprint of the building. There is a defective heating system. My client will endeavor to install new heating, AC, all of those systems. There was a plumbing leak that has caused some substantial damage to the premises. They will repair that plumbing issue going forward, and to the extent that it'll be necessary, they replace the wall that was compromised, the exterior wall that was compromised by the damage done by the water. We would have, as I said in my narrative, we would have bubble wrap, adhesive products, rope, string, ramping materials, all of which are necessarily and would be necessary to be utilized in this niche kind of business that they have established and have been operating for a number of years, in which they prepare you for the move and assist you on the move and prepare all of your personal belongings for a move by a larger company. They work in conjunction with that larger company and work directly with the citizen, with the customer. Juan Barrios is here this evening and happy to answer any questions you may have. We've had a meeting with Councilor Peach, and we're hopeful that we've answered the questions that she has and may have again this evening. And we also have some neighbors here this evening, one of whom we've met in the past, and a second whom we've met just this evening, and we're happy to answer questions that may be directed to us by those neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anybody wish to speak in opposition? Anybody on Zoom wish to speak in opposition? Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did have the opportunity to meet with the applicant and his attorney. I had a lot of concerns when I first got this application, as I used to live on Fulton Street and understand the parking problems that that street has as a congested one-way neighborhood. The applicant did address all of those concerns, where there is only one truck currently affiliated with this company, but it would rarely be used. They'd be using their pickup truck mostly to get supplies from this. My understanding is this is basically a storage unit that they can own for their boxes and their other packing supplies. So there are a few neighbors here today from Fulton Street, and I did speak with some of the abutters who all had the same original concerns that I had. I believe they've been addressed by the applicant. I do have a few conditions. I will condition that there's no overnight parking on this site. Condition the hours, which they've requested 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday with no Sunday operating. And in regards just for the occasional storage of any furniture, that there'd be a rodent control put in place for that. So I'll turn it over to the rest of the council.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. As Councilor Peach said, this is a very narrow street, and the neighbor's biggest concern, I'm sure, is a truck being parked on the street, even temporarily, which will hinder the access up and down the street, or up the street, excuse me, being a one-way. The 17-foot truck, Jack, where is that going to be?
The 17-foot truck is actually stored in Marblehead. There is space that will continue to be available to them in Marblehead, and they will leave their truck there. That 17-footer would call upon this site only to pick up the supplies that are inside this site and then bring them elsewhere. And there also is no full-time employee on the premises. They do most of their business via cell and direct meetings at your house to kind of assess what your particular needs are. So that 17-footer will not be overnight, nor will it be on the street. We do have opportunity to get a vehicle off the street, and we have a garage which is usable and accessible.
So the 17-footer is unloading or picking up material. Where's it parking? Directly
That would be done in that carve-out at the garage door.
at the garage door. And there's plenty of room.
Yes.
It's very important that for your client to understand that it's critical not to be blocking that street, because, you know, that's a busy, busy, busy street for folks, and just, I'd like you to make sure of that, please.
We're happy to do that, and I think that the councilor is going to supply a condition with respect to overnight parking, and we're aware that it's one way, and my client Juan here this evening actually had the opportunity to explain how his business works to our neighbors, and we're satisfied that we will not impede traffic in any fashion.
I'm sure Councilor Peach is going to be on top of that, so thank you.
Councilor Rosenthal?
Thank you, Mr. President. The only question I have is, I know you said packing material. There's no flammables that are going to be stored on that premises, correct?
No, to the extent that if we need, because of adhesives, tape and things, if we need some sort of flammables permit, we'll get it.
Thank you.
Any other councilors? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just threw you to Councilor Peach because you mentioned in your condition, are there some conditions, or are there some circumstances under which material would be brought to the site, other than packing materials? Like, I was under the impression they go to the residents, or I guess two-part question. The first one to Attorney Kelty. The majority of the customers residential, or are they serving the business community?
They are not limited to residential, but yes, the majority of their moves are residential.
Okay, and the question that I had to Councilor Peach, but I'll ask you first. What are the circumstances under which they would bring material, customer material, to this site?
One, Barriers, Seaside Movers. I live at 84 Humphrey Street in Swampscott. Can you repeat the question again? I'm sorry, Council.
Sure. I'd like to know what the circumstances are when customer material would be brought to the site versus your company going to the customer's location and packing up the items to be moved.
Well,
are there some circumstances where you would bring it to this building?
We'll bring it to the building if, for example, they're redoing their floors. So usually that takes a week. You know, if they wanted their living room, dining room. But again, as Jack said, we will never bring like a full house there. You know, it will be. Again, my truck is a 17-foot truck, which is like literally from here to the desk. It's not much you can fit there. Maybe maybe a living room, a bedroom set, but no more than that, no full moving. Mostly, again, it's for packing materials.
Yeah, so Attorney Kelty, you're asserting that
I think the direct answer to your question is, in the instance that I've moved from my premises, I'm moving to House B, I've decided my furniture is being delivered, it's all going in, and I've decided now I want to redo the living room floor. He would have living room furniture possibly in this particular unit for a period of days while they did that floor. in general, we would try to make sure that all the furniture is delivered, whether it's, on that particular, literally the floors, first, second, or third floor, it would be the furniture delivered to the new house and us taking on none. That would be a matter of convenience for the client and a very unusual situation.
So, thank you, Mr. President. Back through you to Councilor Peach. So you're comfortable that these instances where there's going to be some loading and unloading of the material, that there's sufficient space there for them to do that without blocking the street? Like other councilmen, and you certainly know it better than I do, that's a very tight spot there. So, as long as you're comfortable that can happen in that space, I'm okay with it. But that's my lingering concern.
The truck does fit in the building.
Through you, Mr. President, to Councilor McGinn. There is a garage that's attached to this building, which is what the previous occupant used as well. The truck does fit in there fully, so for loading and unloading. That was a question that I had. It came up as it does happen, but very rarely. So just putting the condition for the pest control on the chance that it does happen. They could have told me, no, they never do that, and I don't think we'd ever be the wiser. But so I appreciate that they were upfront about it. I don't foresee it being an issue, but I've already discussed with the applicant and Attorney Kelty that this is a very vocal neighborhood, and if it does become an issue where parking is so tight, they'll be back before the council. So.
Thank you, Councilor Peach. So you mentioned, Attorney Kelty, that the truck fits in the building. That's the intention of the applicant, is to do any of this loading and unloading inside, to put that truck inside the building and load and unload there? Or is it the intention to have the truck on the street?
No, inside the building.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor McGinn, any other questions from any of the councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to close the public hearing.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach to close the public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to approve the application from Seaside Movers LLC, 84 Humphrey Street, Swampscott, Mass. for a special permit requesting to change use of the premises from a carpet cleaning service to an auxiliary office and storage for a moving company at 63 Fulton Street, Peabody, Mass. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. Any discussion on the motion?
Sorry, Mr. President, can I add my conditions?
Can you add the conditions? The clerk just inform me of that as well. Thanks.
With the following condition, that there's no overnight parking. The hours are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday with no Sunday operating hours. And on the chance that there is storage overnight of any furniture, that a rodent control plan is put in place. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Peach. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Yes. Peach. Yes. Welton.
Yes.
O'Neill. McGinn.
Yes.
Gamache.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Daigle.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, councilors. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to reports of committee. We did not have the Public Services Committee. I'm going to give a report of the Committee of the Whole from the June 28th meeting, but we'll start off with the Industrial and Community Development meeting that was held tonight. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. We held a subcommittee of the Industrial Community Development this evening at 7 o'clock. And in attendance were Councilors Daigle, Councilors Manning Martin, Councilor McGinn, Councilor Rossignol. Also in attendance was Councilor Peach, Councilor Welton, Councilor O'Neill, Councilor Gamache, and Councilor Turco, and yourself, Mr. President, Councilor Melville. We spoke, Attorney Kelty spoke about the reason that he was before us, trying to add another parcel in the mill overlay. And we also had Community Development Director Kurt Bellevant spoke. We had some residents, 2 residents spoke in opposition or questioning what the status of the proposal was before the planning board. The motion was made by Councilor Manning Martin, to leave this in subcommittee. The motion passed 5-0, and it is staying in subcommittee, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. I'm going to move on to a report. The clerk's asking if we would receive items 7D and 8H as part of your report.
So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Gould to receive 7D and 8H. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. 7D and 8H.
8H.
All right, moving on. You'll see in late communication 2, the clerk provided the list of motions that were made at the committee of the whole meeting for the charter review on June 28th. There's only 3 items out of that meeting. Councilor McGinn?
Move to receive and dispense with the rules.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn to receive late item 2. There's only 3 items that would be reported out of that committee. All 3 were approved unanimously. These were requests to be made to Assistant City Solicitor Barrett for further information. They were all based off of that. The first one, under Article 3 on the first page, Councilor McGinn made a motion to request the Assistant City Solicitor Barrett provide the City Council some context and definition under Sections 3-6 on page 19, lines 21 and 22 as to what the selection of a city of officers by the City Council might entail. That carried 9-0. I'd take a motion for that particular item to be reported out. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Moving on the second page, you'll see the second item down was from Councilor McGinn. It was a motion to Assistant City Solicitor Barrett to provide background for the language under Sections 3-6, page 20, line 2. Approval within 3 business days of such adoption of the passage. That also passed the council 9-0, passed the subcommittee 9-0. That motion was made by Councilor McGinn. I'd make a motion to...
So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. And the last item to be reported out of the committee was from a motion by Councilor Gamache. It was a motion to request the Assistant City Solicitor Barrett provide the City Council with the types of leave that a mayor may enter into under Sections 3-7. That also passed 9-0. I'd take a motion to report that out.
So moved, Mr. President.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. So those were the 3 items that were reported out. The clerk will be sending it out in the next packet, the edits that were made along with these motions as well, so that we can be prepared for our next meeting. We haven't set one yet, but I'll find out a night and I will communicate that to the council ahead of time to make sure everybody can be available. So that's the end of reports of committee. We're going to move on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould.
No motions, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8E. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Rossignol. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Rossignol.
No further motions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 7E, the response from the mayor to the City Council motion P504-22.
You heard the motion from Councilor Manning Martin. Any discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry, Councilor.
Yes, I wanted to discuss this letter from the mayor. I wanted to thank him for his quick response to my motion that passed unanimously, requesting a response from him to let the public know the status of the access to City Hall, given that the access was restricted due to COVID and a public health pandemic, with mandates for social distancing and requiring face masks that we enter through the Chestnut Street entrance. And the COVID pandemic has ended, and we are still required, the public is still required to access through that Chestnut Street entrance. So I had requested, with the council support, the mayor to give the public an update as to the status of the access to City Hall when the other doors would be open. And I want to read his letter in response to that. It is addressed to City Council President and honorable members. As mayor, I am committed to ensuring that City Hall remains a welcome and accessible place for all residents and visitors. I am proud that we were among the first cities in Massachusetts to completely reopen to the public during the COVID pandemic. I continue to be concerned, however, by increased reports of violence and threatening behavior in schools and other state and federal facilities. This summer we had, excuse me, this summer we have already had 2 incidents at City Hall which required a response from Peabody Police. Fortunately, both situations were headed off by security personnel at the Chestnut Street visitor entrance. Particularly during these tumultuous times, we must strive to achieve a prudent balance between convenience and public safety. I know that the City Council shares my commitment to keep those who visit and work at City Hall and all our municipal facilities safe. While I anticipate that our current City Hall access protocols will continue.
Communication 7C and refer that to Legal Affairs Committee. So moved.
You have the motion from Councilor O'Neill for 7C, Legal Affairs. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions this evening.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Councilor McGinn.
Mr. President, on special rules, move to receive item 7A and refer to finance. So moved.
You have the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On special rules, move to receive item 7B and refer to finance. So moved.
You have the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On special rules, move to receive item 7F and refer to finance. So moved.
You have the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On special rules, move to receive item 7G and refer to finance. So moved.
The motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On special rules, move to receive item 8A and set up a public hearing. So moved.
You have the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On special rules, move to receive item 8G and set up a public hearing. So moved.
You have the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On special rules, move to receive item 9A and set up a public hearing. So moved.
Motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On special rules, move to receive item 9C and approve all papers being in order. Viceroy Peabody, 65 Main Street, for renewal of a lodging house license. So moved, Mr. President.
You heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I may have missed it. I know Councilor Walton got one of the block parties on 7B. Did we get all 3 of them?
No, they missed the other 2.
Okay, so, excuse me, it's not 7B.
On that motion, they're actually, they've already occurred. So I don't know if we should approve them retroactively, but it's August 7th and August 20th.
Thank you. So move to receive and approve all papers being in order. Item 9B, between 31 Benevento and 43 Benevento and Shannon Drive at Antrim Road. So
You heard the
moved.
motion from Councilor Turco. All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. My motion would be to ask the Director of Community Development to create a definition and supply a definition to the City Council for mill buildings under the Mill Building Overlay District. So moved.
You heard the motion from Councilor Turco. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed to the vote? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a motion that I believe we've already made once or twice. Could you, it's a motion to request the ESSER expenditures from the Superintendent of Schools. He did send a broad memo on those, but I would like to see a line item expenditures coming out of ESSER funding. for both last year and this year. If possible, and could you add the mayor to that motion also?
Hear the motion from Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, any opposed, the vote. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last motion, motion to request from His Honor the Mayor a copy of the contract between the City of Peabody and Atlantic / Cataldo Ambulance. So moved.
Hear the motion from Councilor Turco. All in favor, any opposed, to vote. Councilor Turco.
That's all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to receive item 8B. And just to elaborate a little bit on that, this is the summary judgment that has been issued about 15 King Street in favor of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the 40B that was filed. I would like to make a motion for an update from HD King Street, I want to say the defendant, or also Hemisphere Development for an update on the status of the project. So moved.
So we'll, under suspension of the rules, we'll move to receive item 8B, and then we'll, your motion as well.
Just an update on the status of the project.
We were talking, so the status. I got you.
Is that
You
clear?
heard the motion from Councilor Daigle. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you. Do we need to receive item 8F and refer to maybe the mayor's office for a citation?
Yes.
And
You heard the motion from Councilor Daigle regarding 8F. All in favor? Any opposed? To vote. Councilor Daigle.
Thank you, Mr. President. Other than, did we receive item late 3, I believe we did? Is there any other business you need me to receive?
I just asked. We're good.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Thank you again, Councilor Daigle. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Councilor Manny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I've gotten a few texts that the video, the live feed froze when I was reading this letter. So would you indulge me
Absolutely.
to read it again? Thank you. And thank you for the folks that let me know that. What I had read was a response from the mayor regarding a request of the council asking when the other doors of City Hall would be open outside of the Chestnut Street entrance, which was mandated as the main entrance when the COVID pandemic hit, when we had to have social distancing and mask mandates, and it still is the only access that the public has. And he did get back to us quickly with a response. I'm going to read you his response. And again, I thank the mayor for getting back to us with this information. So it's kind of a public service announcement here. It is addressed from the mayor to the city council president and honorable members. As mayor, I'm committed to ensuring the city hall remains a welcome and accessible place for all residents and visitors. I am proud that we were among the first cities in Massachusetts to completely reopen to the public during the COVID pandemic. I continued to be concerned, however, by increased reports of violence and threatening behavior in schools and other local, state, and federal facilities. This summer, we have already had 2 incidents at City Hall which required a response from the Peabody Police. Fortunately, both situations were headed off by security personnel at the Chestnut Street visitor entrance. Particularly during these tumultuous times, we must strive to achieve a prudent balance between convenience and public safety. I know that the council shares my commitment to keep those who visit and work at City Hall and all our municipal facilities safe. While I anticipate that our current City Hall access protocols will continue for the foreseeable future, I welcome your feedback and suggestions for improvement. Warmest regards, Edward A. Betancourt Jr., Mayor of the City of Peabody. So I thank you for allowing me to reread that. And again, I thank the folks at home that let me know that it froze out. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Manny Martin. I'm going to defer my motions, orders, and resolutions to the clerk. She wants to discuss elections.
Yes, I'd just like to give a reminder to the citizens that the upcoming state primary is going to be held on September 6th. The polls open at 7 and they close at 8 p.m. Our polling locations are Ward 1 is at the Brown School, 150 Lynn Street. Ward 2 at the Holy Ghost, 20 Howley Street. Ward 3 at the Turigian Senior Center, 79 Central Street. Ward 4 is at the Higgins Middle School, 85 Perkins Street. Ward 43A is at Brooksby Village. Ward 5 at Peabody High School, 485 Lowell Street. Ward 6 is at the Burke School, 127 Birch Street. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is Monday, August 29th at 5 o'clock. If we get any applications in after that, we cannot send you a ballot, so please get those in before 5 o'clock. And I also wanted to let everybody know that we are going to have early voting here at City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, and that starts this Saturday, August 27th from 9 to 1, right here in the Wigan Auditorium. Sunday, August 28th from 9 to 1. Monday, August 29th from 8:30 to 4. Tuesday, August 30th, 8:30 to 4. Wednesday, August 31st from 8:30 to 4. Thursday, September 1st from 8:30 to 7. And Friday, September 6th from 8:30 to 12:30. And the last day to register to vote in the state is on Saturday, August 27th at 5 o'clock, and we in the clerk's office will be there until 5 o'clock on Saturday. Hope to see you all at one point or another throughout this. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Vote. We're adjourned.